Hey there, future guitar players. It's Sven here again, Sven Amish, commonly mispronounced as Amish, but that's probably a good thing. It's an easy way to remember my Twitter name and website. You can always find me and ask me questions. My Twitter account is Amish School, and the website is Amish School of Rock. So hopefully we can think of some kind of way to remember those things. Not quite sure how off the top of my head. Anyway, this is the next in my very complete beginner series of guitar. This is made for the complete noob, person who's never ever played guitar before. And if you have not seen the video, go back up and look for, I think it's called Beginner Lesson Number 1, because what it talks about is how I learned to play guitar very quickly, just jumping right in and playing a song. Skipping the music theory and that kind of stuff early on and just getting started. And I think you'll find it kind of interesting because it's going to give you confidence that if I can play, then most definitely you can play guitar. So this is my next video, which is about how to buy a good, proper acoustic guitar. In my last video I talked about the difference between the electric and the acoustic and the classical, and decided that for this particular genre, this first course I'm doing, we're going to stick with the classic acoustic guitar with metal strings. So this lesson is geared for people who wants to A, buy an acoustic guitar, but B, have never played, which puts you into kind of a catch-22 as to how do you pick out a guitar if you don't actually know how to play. Well, good news is if you already have a guitar, you can skip this lesson, or you can watch and maybe pick up some tips on how to find out if your guitar is in good shape. First thing you want to do is probably find a reputable shop, a good guitar dealer in your area, and of course this video is going out throughout the world, so based on your geography it's going to vary from country to country and city to city. But you want to do your research and find out if the place that sells you the guitar is reputable, and very important, if they have a return policy, mostly a 30-day or 60-day return policy. If you find out you're not happy with the guitar, can you bring it back for a refund or an exchange? I'm going to take a quick digression or sidetrack and just talk about a website called Musician's Friend, musiciansfriend.com. And while I don't always recommend buying a guitar online, it's a great place to get started as far as looking at what models are out there and doing some price comparisons. So before you actually go out to the shop, it might be worth looking at that website and looking at the various name brand guitars, trying to get some model numbers and figure out which guitars are in your price range. Now, when you're ready to go out there and buy, you definitely want to bring a friend or family member, someone you know, along with you to the shop if you can, because if they play a little bit or have a good ear, they can help you make some decisions and identify a good guitar and bad guitar, and maybe help you decide for yourself what it is you're looking for. Really quick note on just different types of acoustic guitars. We have both non-electric acoustics, and then we have what's called electric acoustics. And on the electric acoustics, like this guy, you might see this cutaway here. And the reason is that you can play higher up on the neck, and it also makes room for some electronics inside the guitar. Whether or not you go for the electric acoustic or the plain acoustic is really a matter of taste, because you might find that the plain acoustic has better sound and you can always amplify it or mic it later on. So that's really a call which you should make yourself. Just a quick look at some of the parts of the guitar. We're going to talk about this more in detail in next lessons, but you need to know this is the sound hole, this round part in the middle. This, of course, is the neck. These spaces here are called the frets, and the lines are called the fret markers between the frets. And these are called tuning pegs. And of course, this course is focused on the 6-string guitar as opposed to the 12-string, so we're going to go to the part of the store that has the 6-string guitars. Down the road, when you're rich and famous, we'll of course look at some Rickenbacker guitars, some great 12 strings, but we're focusing on the 6-string right now. There are 3 things you want from a guitar. You want it to, number 1, look good, you want it to sound good, and you want it to play well. And sounding good and playing well are not always the same thing, because it can sound great, but it might be hard to play based on what's called the action, if the neck is bent in the wrong direction, that sort of thing. But what's really important about a guitar that sounds great and you really enjoy is it's going to make you want to practice and make you want to learn. This guy here is actually a kind of a boutique guitar called a Seagull, which I picked up about a year ago, and I love the sound. I can't wait to get home and play it, and it just makes me really enjoy playing. So that's a good reason to kind of push the envelope on the price. When you are at the store or the shop looking at a guitar, you should consider whether to buy what's called a laminate top or a solid hardwood top. And I definitely recommend going for what's called the hardwood top. And the hardwood top is basically, this piece here is all one piece of tree. And the way to tell if that's true, on this guy it's a little bit more difficult, but let's see if I can show you this guitar here. I've got an old Martin here, which has got some grains, and you can actually see the grains inside the sound hole. So you can actually tell that this piece of wood is the same piece of wood both here and on the inside. Whereas on a laminate guitar, we are not going to see that. So look inside the sound hole and see if you can tell if it's one piece of wood. Next thing I want to talk about is price. And there's an expression, of course, that you get what you pay for, and that is true with guitars too. The sweet spot, I think, in North America is probably about $250 to $500. That's US dollars for a good quality acoustic or acoustic electric. And that's probably about 180 euros. And give or take a few bucks, that's pretty much where you'll be at to get into the good guitar range. One thing too to think about with regards to a good guitar is that it's not going to go down in value. So when you really become a great guitar player, you can trade this guy in and actually buy yourself a better guitar, or just keep it and watch it appreciate. And that's an advantage of spending more earlier on, is that they don't go down in value, and also they actually tend to sound better. Like a fine wine, as the wood ages, you'll get a bolder, richer sound from the guitar. So solid wood, solid top will improve with age. With regards to brand, you can of course go back to Musician's Friend and look at the actual customer comments on the guitars, but there's some basic guitar brands that you'll like. There's Takamine, Martin, Yamaha, Taylor, and let's see, what else is there? Gibson. But you really can't go wrong, I think, with Martin or Yamaha. Those would be my favorites, followed by Taylor, Takamine, and Gibson. Again, this guy was kind of more of a boutique guitar I found a year ago, and I liked it. But if you're new, stick with those 5 name brands, in my opinion. You should also think about, there's 2 kind of sizes of guitars. There's something called a jumbo and a dreadnought. A dreadnought is more traditional. This is a dreadnought guitar here. A jumbo is more for a really booming live performance, and it is what it's called. It's actually kind of an oversized guitar. I would stay away from the jumbo guitar as a beginner and go for what's called the dreadnought, very traditional type guitar. That's what Roger Waters, Neil Young plays all the time. The jumbo tends to be more, I guess, for country music, which is great too, but as a starter guitar, the dreadnought is actually smaller too, which is great. We want to think about both the neck length and the neck width, because you want something that's comfortable. Obviously you don't play yet, but you want to hold the guitar in your lap or put a strap around it and hold it. And make sure that your hands can comfortably reach all the way up to the very first fret without you know, reaching too much. Make sure that it's comfortable. Also make sure that your fingers can go across all these frets and that there's room to spare. I've got slightly larger hands, so I found that some larger frets actually work better, but just make sure that your fingers can stretch well across the neck. Something else which is kind of obscure but you may want to think about is the actual color of the neck. And sometimes when you have the strings on it, this is actually a darker color neck, which makes it hard to see some of the strings. And if you're a beginner player, you'll be looking more at the neck. So you might want to actually consider some contrast on the neck, being able to see the strings against the neck, because it's going to help you find some of those chord shapes earlier on. Later on you're playing by what's called muscle memory, so you don't have to worry about that. But earlier on you may want to think about the actual contrast of strings and neck. Here's something else, how to spot a guitar that's in good shape. Guitars actually get bent up in transit, and a guitar you see on the shelf may actually be, you know, a year old or 18 months old. It might have never been used, but it might have been bent in transit. So to find out if the neck is actually what's called true, ask the sales rep to first of all tune the guitar for you, and to take what's called an electric tuner and show you that the guitar is in perfect tune. Now go to what's called the 12th fret, fret number 12. This is called an octave. So just write down the word octave and bring that to the guitar shop and tell the salesperson to play you an octave on what's called the heavy E string and the high E string. It doesn't matter what that actually means right now, but just tell them that you want to see on a tuner an octave being played. And what you should see is when he plays this big fat E string, which is the one closest to your chin, and this little tiny string, which is by your toes, those are both E strings. But when you play them by putting your finger on this 12th fret, it's the same note, but it's actually a higher up version of that note. That's called an octave. And what he should be able to show you on his tuner is that that note is exactly the same as the note that's played without his finger on the neck. And what this does is actually mathematically proves that your neck is not bent. It's just a electronic, high-tech way of proving that your guitar is in good shape. One more thing is, again, as this course is for people who don't yet play but are trying to pick out a good guitar, have the salesperson or your friend or family person play what's called a chord progression, maybe a G and a C and a D. So write that down, G, C, D. And listen to that a couple times, and then have the salesperson pick up a similar guitar in the same price range and play that same progression. And what you want to listen for is, you want to listen for more bass or less bass, more treble, less treble. You'll hear that, you know, two identical size guitars, even the same make and model, might actually have different sounds. And that's because every single piece of wood is going to be different. So have several guitars in the same price range that you can afford, compared by the salesperson playing a chord progression. Every salesperson is going to want to show off and show that they're able to play these fancy leads. You don't want that. You want to hear some basic open chords and compare apples to apples. Finally, you can do what's called the Wish You Were Here test, which is one I just made up. This is a song you actually know, and probably every guitar player on the planet knows how to play it. So ask your salesperson to play that song for you. Chances are they know it, and you can have them play the introduction and a few chords and then compare, again, that guitar to maybe one or two other guitars. So you've looked at the Laminates versus the Hardwoods. You found your price point. You found a model you're happy with. You make sure that the salesperson will return the guitar if you're not happy. Finally, you're ready to make that purchase. And what you want to do is just ask to have the salesperson restring your guitar for you. And the type of strings you want is, they're called extra light gauge. The brand does not matter too much, but extra light gauge. Actually, Martin makes them. You might want to ask for, let's see, this is the Dario. They're just as good. You may want to ask for extra light gauge coated, and coated strings will actually last longer. They won't corrode quite as quickly, which means less string changing. And so I have them change the strings for you, and before you leave the shop, you want to buy tons and tons and tons of picks. Picks are cheap, and you will lose them the moment you buy them. So buy lots of them, and I recommend you buy large picks, different size picks, and also lots of thin picks, because they come in various thicknesses. I want you to focus on these thinner picks when you buy those. Now, if you can afford it, you bought your guitar, you might want to find what's called a guitar luthier. For about 25 bucks, you can have your guitar actually checked, inspected, and usually tuned up. Because again, what happens is during transit, the neck gets kind of bent, and they can align that neck for you, because chances are it's had a little bit of bend, and you want to get the guitar just right. And there's also something called action, which needs to be adjusted before you play. Not always necessary, but if you want to spend the money, or if you have the money, just have the guitar checked out, and you'll be really happy with it for years and years. So that's it. We've got our guitar finally picked out. We're getting very, very close to our first complete guitar lesson, which will have us playing a real live song. We're about 2 lessons away. Do not forget to subscribe by hitting that subscribe button way up top there. And hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.